Welcome to Flight Test. I'm Peter, and today we're going to do the build video for the Bushwacker. Now, the Bushwacker is mainly designed to be like a complement to Josh's Storch, which is an awesome design, but it's more of like a trainer plane. But this is more of like towards an intermediate to advanced flyer for you guys that want to push it, like such as the guys want to land on the roofs, do high alpha, do hovering. This plane will pretty much do a lot of that stuff real well with ease. And also it's got massive tires for rolling all over the ground and crashing into pretty much everything. So without further ado, let's get into the build video. Okay, so the first thing we want to start with is the fuselage. The fuselage consists of one main part, the top rear hatch, the power pod plate, and the two fuselage top pieces. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up all the seams and just prep this fuselage part to the building. So I'm going to do that right now. It's best not to step ahead and skip and just do things all kind of all over the place. You kind of want to keep this one consistent because some parts, when you glue it, it'll be stuck. So right now I'm going to go ahead and just lightly cut this. I'm not pushing all the way through it too. I'm just lightly dragging my blade open to open the seam. You don't have to do this. This just makes this assembly process a lot easier when it comes to removing the foam. Biggest thing is to not use too much pressure. Just very lightly drag the razor knife through this to open it up. Alright, and if you guys are building this from the plans, these are the score cut lines. They are not the cut through lines. And see, when I do this, it just kind of opens up like that. You can see it's not cut all the way through the paper. It just allows me to pull this off super easy. And these front parts, you just want to go and pull all this entire flap off. This is actually going to fold over and protect our nose to keep it from delaminating in the future. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dig this channel out. This is going to hold our power pod adapter plate thingy. You can use anything too. I'm just using a flathead because it's kind of like a little wedge. Just dig the foam out with. And you can see why I'm doing this rather than punching through the other side is because there's actually paper still left in here. Because see, I'm using that just like that. So, and if you guys actually do cut through and you pull some of this paper out, it's not a big deal. What you can do is just take some tape and put it on the other side and it's good as new. The only thing you just have is a little bit of a mark there. All right, so before we're gonna go any further, you wanna make sure you got all these channels dug out. This especially has to be dug out now because if you try to glue this up and then try to dig it out later, it can be a nightmare. Okay, so once you guys have all of the score cuts and little lines dug out, we're gonna go and do the nose first. We're gonna fold these over, but wait, we need to do this first. You'll see on the plans there's a very, very light indentation line, kind of like where the B fold is. That's actually just to remove the paper. But to help it, I'm gonna dig through it with the knife, just ever so slightly. Now I'll lift that off, and it'll stop right there. So once you pull these off, there's only 3 of these. You actually leave the top hatch on. That one doesn't get pulled over. So that one keeps the paper on itself. Okay, so once you guys have done that, there's one more thing you want to pull off. It's this big sheet right here. So we're gonna actually break this line too. There's a little bit of a score cut here. So we're gonna pop that out. That's got popped out. And we're gonna pull this off. That'll help your tail fold in because it's got a very small gradual curve to it. And we're gonna break these into. These guys have already fell out on their own because the cuts were deep enough. And now we're gonna begin the fuselage assembly. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some glue in here. This is a B fold, so I'm gonna get glue pretty much everywhere. Just to make sure it bonds real well. And you wanna make sure this is as a right angle as possible. So I'm gonna use this, what is this thing called? A right angle thingy. We included it in our crafty kit though. There's another term for this. Oh, carpenter square. So I'm not gonna rush through this portion. I'm just gonna make sure it stays and give it plenty of time to cure. Because you don't want to really build crookedly, but if the plane does come out crooked, it's not really a big deal. They fly great anyways. All right, so that side's done. I'm gonna go to the next side. And now just to be sure, we only glue from here to here. Do not go and glue back here yet. We're not to that stage yet. You have to assemble this thing a certain way to keep it square and true. I'm gonna stop about right there. Fold it up again. Get my tri-square, right angle, carpenter square thing, and hold it there. Alright, the next thing we're gonna do is work on the power pod mount. It goes inside the fuselage. We got the same score cuts here we're gonna open up. This is gonna fold out like that. We're gonna pull this section out because it's gonna double over. And that part's gonna go over the top like this. Where you see this, where it's top, it's gonna be like that. So now I'm gonna put some glue on here. Make sure you use just enough. You don't need to go crazy, but make sure you get enough on there. Now I'm gonna fold it over. Now when I do this, I like to take this and press it down against the table. This keeps this piece nice and square. And if you also notice too, this pod is actually at an angle. It has built-in right thrust to the airplane, so that'll help deal with P factor and such other things such as that. So you want to make sure you glue the top part facing upwards, you know, sort of like the way it goes, not facing to the left, because otherwise you'll get left thrust, and that's very wrong, and it would fly very badly. So now we're gonna go and insert this piece, because this is gonna help jig everything up and keep it nice and straight. So the first thing I like to do is just grab this and pinch this ever so slightly with my finger, because it's gonna fit in those ridges you dug out earlier. This makes it go right in very quickly and easily. So you're not mashing paper up and pulling off corners. So I'm just gonna pull the fuselage over. I'm gonna slide this in here, and I'm gonna rock that into that gap. I start up with the nose right here in this corner. Pull it over. Now flip this over, and move that to that corner, and it'll slide back ever so slightly. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to sight down the airplane, and you notice that you can twist this a little bit, because sometimes the foam board comes ever so slightly twisted, so this is a great way to get it out of the airplane at this time. So now we're going to go ahead and glue these the power pod mounted. So what I can do is take this, open this up slightly, oops, a little too much, and get plenty of glue back here. We can glue the front a little bit later in another step, but I'm going to open that up and get glue all in that corner. Now I'm going to press these together, pick up the fuselage again, and look down and hold it there to where I want it, where I see those are perfectly straight looking. Now that that's taken care of, we're going to go ahead and glue the bottom flat piece thing in. So you can see the paper is already pulled out and it already wants to curl into the natural shape of the fuselage. So I'm just going to flip that side back. I'm going to get glue all up in here. Do the other side. And flip this over. I want to squeeze these in and get that nice and glued in. Be careful with this step too, because sometimes glue can run out of the corner so you don't totally burn yourself. And now once I got this thing pretty lined up, I'm going to flip this over. And like Josh likes to say, use the table as your friend, and that'll help put pressure on this and keep it nice and steady. And rock it back and forward very lightly. Now if you look down there, you'll see it's perfectly straight. So once you're done with the tail, we're going to finish up gluing up our pod in here. Or pod mount, I should say. I'm just going to put some light here, glue in here. You can actually push that out, get the glue in there, and it'll close back in. Do the same thing on this side. And now make sure when you do this, you put a light amount of even pressure on it, just to make sure it stays right in. Otherwise your parts won't fit right if it's sticking too far out. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and glue the top deck on for the tail. So I'm going to go do the same thing with the squirt cuts and open them up. Now you see the ridge right here where this comes down. It's ever so slight, you can see it. You just kind of squeeze the fuselage open just a little bit and drop this piece in there. Press it down when you're good with the fit. I'm going to flip it over and use the table as my friend. And also you can see we're also doing this on the Crafty kit too. And Josh actually coated this in a layer of Camp Dry. It's kind of like a silicone spray. It actually keeps the hot glue from sticking to it. And when you glue this piece in, you want to make sure you keep it as square as possible. Try not to shift anything, but it should fit on its own and it should stay square since everything else is built pretty perfectly. So the next thing we're going to move on to is the nose piece. I'm going to glue the top shelf on first. Get glue here, and get glue there. Close that, and pinch the nose in while pressing this little flap down. And so when you're gluing this part in, you want to make sure you hold on to it for a little bit longer, since these pieces want to naturally pull out. They're going to try to pull the glue joints out. So give it some extra time and you'll be in great shape. And next thing is the bottom part. I'm going to go and curl this in a little bit to make it help it so it naturally wants to tuck in. Once I've satisfied that, I'm just going to flip it back over and glue it in. And since we delaminated the paper, it naturally wants to curl in on the side that does not have the paper. So that will really help you make these complicated bends. If the paper was on, you'd be wrestling it for quite a bit. Now since we're done with that, you can kind of take a look and eyeball your work. And also you notice too the new things here mentioned by Josh. Josh just gave me this idea to roll the paper in, because this will make the nose last a lot longer. Because if you guys built the inner kits in the past, you'll notice that on the front the paper will start to chafe, and the airflow and everything blowing over it will want to make the whole thing just peel off from the front. So the next thing we have are these two pieces here. One's for the windshield and one's for the rear of the fuselage. I'm gonna go do the windshield one first. Just go and peel these off. You notice that these two are not really exchangeable because that one doesn't really fit right there, and this one doesn't fit right there either. So they're two different sizes, just to let you guys know. And that part's fairly light, so you can kind of just put that on there and leave that one alone. I'm going to the tail. Cool, and we're all done with the fuselage. So now we're going to move on to the landing gear. So for these, you notice that it actually has foam wheels in the kit. Now, for most of us in the past, you know the foam wheels are kind of like, they fall apart kind of easily. So I actually spent quite a bit of time researching and R&Ding, basically playing with these wheels, trying to make them as tough as possible and as light as possible. Because this is actually a fairly light airplane, so I like to keep it flying light so you have the best experience. But we do sell wheels in the store, the big Kraken wheels. Those will work too, but you're going to need to fly a little bit faster, and they are a little bit heavier. So you notice that you have two circles here, and if you guys are cutting this up by hand, it helps to have like a number 11 X-Acto knife and slowly saw into a circle. Josh has also said you can cut with a knife and cut the corners out all the time, but it can be a fairly tedious task, so take your time. So what I'm going to do is put a little glue around here and line it up with the line there. You can see it fits on the inner race there. And I'm going to do the same for all the 4 circles. Notice I don't use too much glue because this is a lot of surface area, so it holds up real well. All right, and once you're done with that, we got these 2 strips here. These are parts of your wheels. We're gonna go and open them up again to score fold. So I'm just gonna score that ever so slightly with my knife. Peel that out and chuck that away. And do the same on this side. And also on the inside right here, we're gonna peel this paper off to make it curl in. Lay that one there and do the same to the other piece. Now, if you guys have noticed, that these tend to get machined and worn out if you use just the bare foam. So we're gonna go and take care of this step next. There's many ways you can do this, such as getting a credit card and gluing on the inside and drilling a hole in it. So I'm gonna show you a couple different ways. In the kit is included a paint stick. We're gonna go and use this. So what I'm gonna go do is score this into little square parts right here. Be careful too, kids, if you're doing this. Don't use a lot of pressure, and if you can, get an adult to do this because you don't want to slip and cut yourself. Cool. Now I'm gonna do that for 3 more times, so I have 4 pieces total. So now we got these little wooden discs, or wooden squares cut, I should say. You guys can also use other things, such as the credit card, like I mentioned. And also, I found one thing is good is the servos we saw in the store, the 3154s. The servo spines are about the right diameter, and actually glue the servo horns onto the discs. So what I'm gonna do first is go and put glue around here in a circle. Press it nice and tight, and repeat this for all 4 wheels. And while you glue these in too, notice which sides I'm gluing them on. I'm not gluing on the outside, I'm gluing on the inside. It's okay if you do on the outside though too, it just will look a little funny, but it wouldn't affect the performance at all. So now I'm gonna flip these over and drill them out. I have a drill bit roughly about the size of that hole. You can pretty much use whatever size to your wire, but most standard drill bits will fit in here. Now when I'm drilling this too, I'm gonna get something to support it because I don't really want to drill to my workbench, so I'm gonna go find something to stand it on. So I found this roll of tape, we're gonna use that. I'm just gonna go and set this disc in there, and drill it out. Now we're gonna go ahead and assemble our tires. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll this and tension this up just so it holds that nice circular shape. It really helps if you take your time and make sure this is nice and round when you do it, because this is a fairly complex super curve. And to get something that looks just like that. It's kind of like a tire without a wheel. Now we're gonna go ahead and glue around here. Now, it's very important when we glue this, we'll leave about 1 inch on one side where we don't glue, because it's gonna make it a lot easier to get the other half of the wheel in. So I'm gonna go and start about right here. Glue it there. Go all the way around. Be very careful too, because you know, hot glue and your fingers don't get along too well, and this involves a lot of glue. So you can see that gap I left right there. I'm gonna start putting this in here. Actually, it helps if I just put it on the table. And push that down there. I slowly work my way around this until I end up about right here. And that'll complete your circular wheel thing right there. You notice you can still peel the side out right here. Try to keep this a little bit off there. If you got a little glue here, just keeps that open. Just go ahead and take your time and hold it there. Make sure it glues real nice and tight. So now we got this half all dried up. We're gonna take our other half and just trial fit it in there. One thing I like to do is push it this way. Cool. That's about good there. Cool, I like that. So now I'm gonna take actually I'll take this landing gear wire here, we'll be using it a bit, and pop it back out. This time I'm actually going all the way around to the other side. And push it down there. It might help if you get the wire. Pull this out. This can be pretty tricky too. Alright, cool. So once I've done that, the tire is complete. This one didn't turn out as perfect as I wanted it to be. It just shows that, you know, even we make mistakes sometimes too. But it's not a really big deal and it won't really affect the performance because we're going to squeegee glue all around these corners to keep the paper from coming off. And before we start gluing, we're going to get some scrap foam. So I'm going to take my scrap and I'm just going to fold it into about a right angle like this, because that's going to help me take glue and squeegee it around through here just like that. So that's what I'm trying to do next. So now I like to just take the glue, just put it on the tire, put a little bead around there, and keep going, keep going. Try to do this kind of quickly because the glue will cool down and it will kind of make it hard to get a nice smooth smeared finished. Cool, just like that. Now I'm going to repeat this process on the other side too. And that'll give you a nice, strong, lightweight, tough wheel. Now go and repeat this process for the other tire and you're all done. So once you're all done with the wheels, one thing you can do to make them last a lot longer, or if they look kind of spotty and you don't really like the finish, is to get some black duct tape or electrical tape, and you can actually wrap the wheels in them and then coat the wheels in the tape so that they get a nice strong durable finish that's much more durable than the paper. And they'll also look prettier too. Now that we're done with the wheels, it's time to move on to the part that I hate the most. So when I designed this plane, I actually designed to use one of our piano wire rods, and it's actually cut to the right length, so you don't have to do any cutting, because look at this thing, it's actually pretty thick. You're not cutting that with no hand cutters. You need Dremel tool or a bolt cutter to cut this. All right, so we're gonna take this rod, and 15.5 divided by 2 is 7.75, or 7 3/4. So I wanna mark that with a marker right here. You guys can see that, but just mark with a Sharpie marker or just about anything. Now I'm gonna take this rod and put it on the fuselage and get it about as centered as just possible, whatever looks about right. Mark the corner, so I'm gonna mark it here at the end of my fuselage and mark it here. Now next up is to bend this wire. So I got a pretty decent pair of channel locks here. I think the easiest way to do this is a vice clamp, but not everyone has a vice clamp, so try to find a pair of channel locks, because I don't think you're gonna do this very well by hand. Or these aren't channel locks, these are slip joint pliers, by the way. Just gonna bend it down. Yeah, angle looks about right to me. So Dave, you actually brought up a very valid point. This can actually be kind of difficult for people to see, so I'm actually just going to copy my exact dimensions and angles so you guys can have a perfect cut of this out to build for yourself. So here are the angles here for the primary bends of the landing gear. It doesn't matter if you're just a couple of digits off, because it's sort of in the ballpark of there. So on to the next step. Now we're going to make our little parts for the landing gear, or the wheels to go onto. So I'm gonna measure out 1.75 is the measurement for this part. All right, so now I'm gonna grab this and do the same bending here. Now you wanna make sure you're 90 degrees again, because this will make sure your landing gear is nice, true, and straight, and your plane will roll really good. Because this plane's a lot of fun to drive around the ground. Okay, cool. Now you see I got the approximate bend there. It's a little off crooked again, because I'm very bad at bending, so I'm just gonna untweak this and bend it the other way. And that looks pretty good. Cool, and that's all the whole landing gear. So this one is 1.75, about 4 inches, and well, same thing on the other side. All right, so now we're going to actually install landing gear. So first I'm gonna cut out this access hatch for our battery. Now the next thing you want to decide is what kind of surfaces will you be landing on. If it's something really rough and you're going to be smacking this thing on the ground really hard, I highly recommend reinforcing this piece on the inside. So what I'm going to do is get the popsicle sticks in the kit. You're going to need 2 for this. So I'm going to take glue and put it on this stick right here and place it on the inside, just right up to the top of that ridge. I'm going to pull it down and butt it up against there. That'll help reinforce the side walls of this airplane. And for this, we're going to make sure we repeat the other side and make sure when you glue it, it's pushing up against the wall. I'm actually going to push that in there and push it nice and flat down up against there. And now you see these 2 little dots on the plans and the kit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut from one dot to the other dot, just lightly though, not all the way through the fuselage. And cut the other side too. And I'm also, if you look, I'm cutting at about like a 35-degree angle, because I'm cutting actually a little V-notch for the landing gear. Pull that out. And it helps if you take the landing gear or something and just dig the rest of this foam out. And once you're done with that, grabbing our popsicle stick, and we're actually going to measure the ends of this. I'm going to do about right here and right here. It's about to the inner width of the fuselage. And we're going to cut this with the pliers or snap it off with a knife or just about anything. Check the landing gear how it lines up, and that'll fit pretty good in there. Alright, so now I'm going to press the landing gear in there. Just go and just do a trial fit. Make sure it fits nice and good. So the next step is to get these 2 little, I don't even know what these are called, but we're going to put them on there anyways. So we're going to open these up. Peel out the inside foam parts. So the next part can be kind of tricky because it's a lot of glue joints at once. So you're going to try to hold this at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to get the tri-square thing you sell. Hold it about there. That's pretty good. And get some glue on here. Push it down there. Get a little more glue on top of there. Make sure you have enough glue here too, because this is a pretty high stress point in hard landings. Take the stick and press it down into there. I'll take our 90-degree thingamajig and hold it there. And next up is to glue these side pieces in. These will help hold the landing gear at 90 degrees rather than keep it from folding in on itself or moving all over the place. So what I like to do is open the seam up, get glue in there, and get glue in on these corners right here. Now I take this while it's opened up, slip it on the landing gear, and then bring it down to the fuselage. And since you have all that glue right there, I won't smear that with my finger because there's a lot of glue to smear. So grab a scrap piece of foam. And now we're going to repeat the process for the other side. Now if you look, this thing is also tapered one way or the other. You could do it on this side, but I prefer it on this side. It's more of an aesthetic thing, but it really won't affect a whole lot. So we're going to go ahead and glue it on this side too. And next thing to do is to add the reinforcement for this foam thing. So we're going to take a barbecue skewer, and we're going to get our measurement here, and we're going to cut it about right there. Alright, so once you have your 2 sticks, we're going to go and glue these in. I'm going to take the hot glue gun, get some glue in this corner right there, and stick the stick in there. Do the same for the other side. And the next and final step for the landing gear is to attach our wheels. So I'm going to go ahead and put these up on here. Just go and ride them on in there. Make sure they freewheel evenly. That one's a little wobbly. Put a little glue on it. Repeat the process for the other side. And that's how you build a landing gear. You can also see if you do it, you also have a little bit of ridge here, which I think looks kind of cool. Where it kind of tucks in, curls around the fuselage. And this should actually be pretty tough too. This could take quite a bit of hits and beatings. So now we're gonna start on the tail section for this airplane. So to get started, I'm gonna go ahead and take the elevator half and the rudder half. It doesn't matter which one you do, you gotta do both of them eventually. And we're gonna open this score cut up. Crack that open. And now we're gonna bevel this. Now if you notice, you have two sides here. You can choose either the fixed stabilizer part or the elevator part. We're gonna bevel the elevator part. So to do this, you're gonna take your knife. Now be very careful with this too, and if smaller kids are watching and you don't wanna do this, or parents, you can also use sandpaper to do this so you don't run the risk of cutting yourself. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward and easy. You just take the knife and just slide down on in there. Now be very careful with the blade at all times when doing this, because you don't want to slip and you don't want to cut yourself, because that's a long knife and a long blade. Now we're going to finish the other half right here that we can't reach. Alright, so we're going to move on to the rudder. I'm going to do the same thing there. Cut it. And pop that open. Now if you notice, I pull the knife towards me because I have more control over the blade. I try to move the part and the blade about the same speed, and it gives me a nice smooth cut. Now when you bevel it, you notice that it's on this side of the control surface, not the other side. Try to do it there, the paper you wouldn't actually have any paper to bevel into. Now the next step is to go ahead and assemble the stabilizer. We assemble it outside the airplane. So I'm going to pop this piece out here. I'm going to flip this over because you notice it has a bevel side and a smooth side. I prefer the smooth side on top, and also you need it for the control horn because it's on this side. It's on the right side of the airplane. So I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to slide it in here like that and fold this over the top, and it locks in like that. And now the next step is to start gluing it. I'm gonna go ahead and push this over to the side, get some glue all up in there, pull this piece back over. Now I'm gonna take my 90-degree carpenter square and hold it there until the glue sets. Now go ahead and repeat this process for the other corners. And you're all done. And before we go any further too, we also need to do the glue hinge. You don't really have to if you're a light flyer and you don't tear things up, but for most of us, we kind of beat these planes up, so I'm actually going to reinforce these hinges with hot glue. I'll put a little bit in there. I'm gonna grab a piece of scrap foam and smear the glue out. You get almost 90% off what you put down and take it back out. You leave about 10% of the glue left. And go and repeat this process for the elevator. And the reason why we're doing this is because it'll keep the paper from delaminating from the foam where your hinge line is. So that basically makes your surface, it keeps your control surface attached to the airplane. Otherwise it eventually would fall off after so many uses. So the next step is to attach the tail to the fuselage. So we're gonna grab our fuselage and we're gonna take our tail and we're simply just gonna slip it in. And there you go. Now we're just going to glue all the corners. And take a piece of scrap foam and squeegee out most of the glue. Now the last step is to assemble these small side stabilizer thingies. I don't know what the actual term for these are, so guys, if you know what this is, let me know. I just see them on like the Javelin Beaver, the float version, and it looks pretty cool, so I decided to put them on this airplane. Now if you notice, they also have a center line. You can pick the top or bottom which one you want to line up to. It really doesn't matter. I like to line up to the tops to have more of the stabilizers facing upwards than downwards. Or you can go in the center. It's totally up to you guys. And these are sort of shaped like an arrow, kind of like the rudder, where it's kind of, like beveled to go one way. So if you notice, it looks like it's going forward, and I like that look. You guys can put it on backwards too if you want, but it really won't affect it a whole lot. I just think it would just look a little funny. And now the last step of the tail section is to go and install the tail skid. So I'm gonna grab a popsicle stick, and I'm gonna cut a small little bevel right here. I'm gonna pre-test this, slide on in there. And you notice it stops eventually. That's about actually the perfect right angle for this, so where these counterbalances don't strike the surface and the tails don't strike the surface either. Put some glue all there. And slide this piece in. That's too far. There we go, there's that ridge. And now it's onto the wings. So to get started, we're gonna have all these parts here. We have one panel and the other panel. We have the spar and we have the two sub-spar trailing edge spacer pieces. So one thing I like to do is to take this and actually notch this in under the paper. If you pull it at an angle, it helps a lot. So I slip it under there and I push it down. Hold it nice and tight. And get your tape and tape over this. I'm doing the inside first, and then I'm gonna flip it over and do the other side. Take my tape and lay it down. The way I like to tape is I like to push one side down and then slowly squish it to the other side. That keeps it wrinkle free and it looks a lot nicer. To finish that off, I usually take something soft like this popsicle stick and rub the tape down. This promotes adhesion and makes it a lot nicer. Now once you're done with that, we're going to tape the other side. Again, start from one side and slowly rub to the other. Take your stick and squeegee the tape down. Now I'm just going to go and tuck this piece of tape over to the other side. And repeat the process for the front. And once you're done with that, we need to open up a couple of these gaps. So I'm just going to take this and cut that edge, cut this edge, and cut this front edge. So now you notice that this is the main part of the wing, this is the trailing edge, and this is the front, which is also known as the leading edge. We're going to go and bevel this part right here, which is the section, that's the bottom portion of the wing and the top portion. We're going to bevel that all the way through. Now for this beveling, it helps if you go beyond 45, because the more you take off, the easier it will be to fold over. Now be careful when you're beveling this, because you want to bevel just the top part. Don't hit the paper skin on the inside. Notice how I'm moving the part more than I'm moving the knife. So if the part slips, it's not a big deal, but if the knife slips while I'm dragging on it, it's more likely to cut me. Now I'll do the same part for this side as well. Now when you bevel, notice we're not going to start over here. We're just starting where this part folds over, because it will fold over like that when we're done. So I'm going to start right there. Notch that and pull the blade this way. I'm going to start pushing the piece out towards me, or away from me. And stop right here. Do a little dig there and pull that piece off. Alright, so now if you see how far we cut here, and we don't go any further than that, so we stop right there. So now I'm going to open these gaps up right here on these two edge lines, because this will help the wing naturally fold over when it comes to assembly. So I'm going to take a popsicle stick or a barbecue skewer, doesn't matter what you choose, and open that gap up. And once we're all done with that, I'm actually going to pre-curl these to help it fold over and hold its shape. So I'm actually going to use the table's edge to do this. I'll lightly push down there, even pressure. And here as well. this will make it naturally really want to hold its shape. So it's less pressure on you guys, so when you're gluing it, it's less likely to warp if it naturally wants to hold its shape. And once you're done with that, you can actually see it actually has kind of an airflow shape to it. It's already kind of curled over. So when we do this, you notice it doesn't take a whole lot of pressure to hold. It holds down very easily. So once we're done with that, we're gonna set this aside for a moment and we're gonna assemble our box bar. So if you notice, the box bar is an A fold. So to do this, we're gonna go and open up our score cuts. So once you got the channels dug out, we're gonna go and fold this over. And like I said earlier, it's an A fold, which means above. So I'm going to glue here. Get glue everywhere. And to help with this process, I like to use a table and kind of roll this back a couple times, get it nice and tight, press it down while I'm doing it, and fold it up till it's about 90 degrees. And again, I'm going to use this right angle triangle. Move it to a couple positions, make sure it's just about right. And simply just hold it there and wait till the thing's done drying. And once you're done with that, just go and repeat the process for the other side. Now the next step is to glue the box bar into our wing. And if you notice, the center is also in the middle of the A. And also, if you buy the kit, there's also a little bit of a score mark there and on this side. So I'm going to get plenty of glue on this. And go and line those dots up with the center and push our spar down. Now go ahead and use even pressure and make sure it's nice and stuck, but don't press it down too hard, you crush it. So once you're done with that, it's now time for the final assembly of the wing. So we're gonna go ahead and just pre-check this, tension this and fold it over. See how it holds the shape? It's actually doing that very easily and very nicely. So that's pretty good. I'm gonna open this back up. But before we do this, we also need to take our other pieces of the subspars and glue these in too. These go on the trailing edge of the bottom portion of the wing, which is this part right here with the servo pockets. So I'm gonna put glue on one side of these only. So that looks pretty good, so I'm gonna fold this over just one last time. Yeah, it looks pretty good right there. Actually, you know what, I noticed something too. If you look here, see this is just a part of my mistake right here. I cut just a little too thin and I cut that. See how that folds over and it looks kind of ugly? So to fix that, we're just gonna unfold this, grab a little piece of tape, and put it over here. Work from one corner to the other. That keeps you from making wrinkles. Smush it down. Now, fold it over and see it looks just like the rest of the wing. And now we're gonna take it to the table's edge once again. This will give us a nice, smooth, easy area because I'm actually gonna crack this last piece back off. That's gonna help us glue some other portions later on. Now, make sure for this step, you have plenty of hot glue because you're gonna need it. So make sure your hot glue is nice and warm and you got a glue stick on standby to help you with this. So first we're gonna put a little bit of glue in here. And then we're gonna put some glue in this channel right here and this channel here. Not the one facing the trailing edge, the one facing the leading edge right here in the front. And we're gonna put it on the spar. So I'm gonna glue the front of this. Now try not to get too much glue in here because more glue is more weight and it will affect your performance of the airplane. Get it nice in there, but not overdoing it. And make sure you use enough here. This is where you want to use the glue. Take it and fold that over. It helps if you have a friend doing this with you, but Mr. Bixler is not available right now. Oh wait, Mr. Bixler is available. I guess he's made a guest appearance in this build video.
The fact that you said a friend available and he called me a friend just warmed my heart.
Enemy, okay, whatever.
Actually, I was looking for that plate right there.
So next step, if you remember where we fold this over to help it break open, we're gonna go and open that back open. And we're gonna put a nice bead of glue down on this rear trailing edge spar. close that. Make sure you give it plenty of time to dry, so no need to rush this, because if you do rush it, it's likely to get warped. So now we're gonna move on to the ailerons. So we're gonna go and open these up. These are score cuts once again. We're gonna crack that open. Do the same for the other side. Now we're going to bevel these. So do the same thing. We're going to bevel the aileron surface and not the wing surface. So the best thing to do is hold it this way, fold that over, hold it like this, and take your knife and cut that out. Now sometimes you can't get over here because the knife is just kind of cumbersome, so it's okay to start ahead and cut out. Stop there and remove that little piece. There you go. And finish the cut by pushing it the other way. Repeat the process for the other side. Now when you do this, just make sure you move ever so slowly and very smoothly. If you encounter a lot of force, it's best to change your blade and not try to keep pushing and hacking. Because if you do that, you're likely to slip and hurt yourself. Because notice how when I was doing this, it cuts so smoothly, because this is a brand new sharp blade. This is also available in our crafty kit, which is another shameless self-promotion, but it's an awesome knife and I really do love it. Now last thing for the ailerons is to do the hot glue hinges. So I'm going to do one side at a time. Make sure you have a piece of scrap foam on standby. Put some glue in that corner. Drag it over this way. And I'll take this and squeegee almost 90% of the glue out. That'll make your hinge line nice and tight and keep it from delaminating and falling off. Go ahead and do the process the other side, exact same way. If you have too much glue in the hinge line, it'll make it really sticky and not work very good. Because the point is just to be just enough glue to hold it very well. So now it's onto the wing. Now with this wing, you have multiple choices when it comes to control surfaces on your wings. You can either do ailerons with flaps, or flaperons. So to build the aileron wing, we simply just put the servos in and do it as normal. You don't cut this line here. So we're going to show you how to do that first, because adding flaps later can be added after doing ailerons. Alright, so I'm going to get my control horn. I'm going to go and insert it where the line is here. So let me just push that down in there. Take a little hot glue, put it in the crack, press it down. Go and repeat the process for the other side. Now the next thing to do is install the servo. So we're going to take our servo and feed our lead to the back part of the trailing edge of the wing, because we're going to try to get our servo lead to come this way and end up about right here where this pocket is. Now to help you with this step, we're going to open up the flap servo pocket. So to do that, we're going to take our knife and cut this right here where there's a little indentation. And now we're going to take our knife and flip this open like that. It springs open like that, and that'll help you get that through there. So what I like to do is straighten this wire out as best as possible. Otherwise it's trying to like push the noodle, I don't know, to space or something. It's really flimsy. Slide that in there. Try to wiggle that out. You can see it barely sticks out. I'm gonna take the knife and just push it over. So it's about where I can grab it. I'm just gonna hold it out here so it doesn't move back into the wing. Now take your servo and move it back out of the wing. Put enough glue in here, just not too much. Enough ought to do it, but make sure you don't go super crazy. And press it in there, rub it in. Now, since I'm using the linkage stoppers, I can simply just slide this piano wire into here. And end it about right over there. Keep it about centered. I cut off a little bit for adjustments and whatnot in the rod. We're going to cut that off. Now, when you cut this, make sure you move the surface to center. You don't want to cut over here a little too short and then find out you've cut off more than you actually have. Alright, and once you're done with that, go ahead and repeat the process for the other side. Now you see how I do this? See how this can roll around when you're tightening this? I like to keep it perfectly straight, so I push the wing down to the table and use it as pretty much a guide to hold that right where it needs to be. And I just tighten the screw. And these are the linkage stoppers. These are on the store, available as a 6-pack if you guys want to use them. They make your life a lot easier, or you could just do Z-bends too, which also I prefer. And that's pretty much how you do the aileron / flaperon wing. I'm going to show you how to do the flaps too, since some of you guys will be wanting to do flaps. So to simply do that, you're gonna just look at it for this really, really light etch line here. And we're gonna cut that open with a knife. That'll separate the aileron from the flap, allow you to move independently. Sometimes you may run into a little bit of snagging, so just take your knife, press it a little bit deeper, move it all around until it's free moving. Now, before we go any further, we're going to go ahead and plug in our wire harness for the ailerons. So I'm going to cut open this pocket right here. Take one of our extensions and push it through. So once you fish one end of the wire harness through, you notice it has, 3 ends. It's got 2 of the female ends. That's the ones we want towards our servos. I'll pull the servo out. Simply plug this in. Now pull it back out. And we can do the same for the other side. Alright, so once it's taken care of, you can go ahead and install your flap servos. Now if you look at these pockets, you'll see that they're not mirrored. They're actually just the same image on both sides, just not flipped over. Because the reason why is so we can use the same servo without having to use a servo reverser or some other nonsense such as that. So I'm going to move these over. Now this is where it comes handy to have a servo tester or your radio already powered up. So we're going to figure out which side the servo goes one way or the other. I'm going to power the servo tester on. And if you notice, hang on, that one side moves down and one side moves up. Since flaps come up or down, depending on which way you're looking at this thing, you want the servo to be in the up position. So I'm going to rotate these backwards so they're facing after the wing towards the trailing edge. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue these in. I'm going to fish the lead in and then go ahead and install it. Now for this, we can go to cut these ears off. We don't really need these anymore. These can just be taped up if you're just using ailerons or flaperons. You guys can either cut this off ahead of time if you want it nice and flush, or just make accommodations for it. I'm just going to go and cut the surface. And get a little glue on it. Now before you totally stick this in, make sure your servo screws in there, by the way. It helps so these don't pop out in flight, because they can be really hard to reinstall if they're in the wing. Repeat the process for the other side. Okay. And once you're done with that, we're going to go install the control horns. Now if you look, you'll see these pockets are actually recessed further back on the wing. That's to get the geometry to help the flap deflection, because the flaps don't ever deflect upwards unless you got spoilers. We're just using this flaps only. So in this case, this is the only time the holes, they don't line up with the front of the hinge line on the wing. They actually stick a lot further back. And the last step is to go and install our push rod. Go and thread into our control horn. I actually picked the middle horn for this. I don't pick the furthest throw horn. I go right to the middle, because I think that gives me enough deflection for the flaps. Cut it again. I'm not going to go ahead and tighten it right now, though. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on there, because we're going to readjust these servos since I moved them once the other rod's in the same side. Again, right in the middle horn, not the top or bottom one. Now we're going to power these flap servos back up and center them up and tighten them down. So so this is at the farthest extreme side, because I notice the servo tester can go from one side to the other. I want it all the way down, or all the way up, I should say. Go ahead and tighten them down. Now you got your flaps. And now's a good time to take a look at the geometry. Like if I want even more flap deflection, I can cut out parts of the wing because it hits a stop right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get maximum deflection. I'm just gonna cut a little notch out. Your case may vary differently depending on the size of servos you use, but this design is designed to fly on 9-gram servos. So now it's on to the tail servos. I'm going to open these pockets up. Get our servos. Now notice the top too, the bevel where we are and the flat smooth side. I want the horn facing the flat smooth side. So it's gonna be over here on the left side of the airplane. I'll put a little bit of glue on our servo. And go and do the same for the elevator. Now once you're done with that step, let's go ahead and install our control horns. Just gonna push in the surface and make sure the dots are above the hinge line for even throw. Do the same for the rudder. So now it's time to install our push rods. I'm gonna go to the outermost hole on both of these surfaces for the most throw, because I like to do 3D. So now I got the last rod going in, and also these things make it super easy too. These little linkage stoppers, if you've ever used them, make it super easy to make fine tuning adjustments to your lengths of the rod. You just tighten them down and they lock it into place. And that's pretty much how you install the servos. Now onto the power pod. So basically I have a standard power pod here. This is with our C-Pack motor. This plane flies great on the B-Pack for indoor flying. C-Pack is great for outdoors and doing unlimited 3D stuff. One thing I like to do with the power pod ahead of time is actually cut a notch for the XT60 because it's going to be facing downwards. That's how we get to the battery. So I'm going to take the knife and cut a small notch here. Push that down through there. Now time for the install. Now we're gonna take our fuselage and look at these two holes in here. That's where we're gonna install our skewers for the mounts. Get it nice and deep in there. Pull back out. I'm gonna cut off about this much of it. That's roughly about 2 inches or so. Take some hot glue and squirt it right into the hole. Take the skewer and slide on in there. Grab another skewer, cut it about the same length, and do the same thing for the other nostril. Now if you guys haven't already, you can go ahead and knock out these cutouts for the power pod. Alright, and the reason why I'm knocking these out right now is because I left them in there for support while we were building this, while we were crushing this in. I did it so we didn't cave this side in. So that just helps to leave them in there for structural rigidity. Now one thing I like to do is keep the wires nice and flush, because this is a little bit of a small area to get it through. But you can get through there with pretty much ease. Slide on the loop, press it all the way back. And now with the hole down here, you can reach up and push the power pod to the top of the airplane. So you can push it up to these alignment tabs. Get it nice up all in there. Once the pod is snug up against the airplane, you can take a skewer and just jam it through the side of the airplane. If you look, you can kind of see an indentation on the side where the bottom mount is, so anywhere in this area, you can just push your skewer through. And now you've assembled one of the most difficult things to design this airplane. Because while designing this, I wanted the fat fuselage to differentiate it from other airplanes and make it look really cool, kind of like a Cessna-ish bush plane looking thing. So there's you have it. There's the wide cheeked face for the airflow and the power pod. And also right there you can see the right thrust built into the airplane. It helps you perform better and it flies much more straight and true. And the one last thing is the skewer tie down for the rubber band on the wing. Now on the plane there are little indentations for where you stick the skewers. Go and cut this. And to keep these from sliding around and coming off, what I like to do is take the hot glue gun and squirt glue on the inside on both holes. And then I push the rod in and out just ever so slightly, roll the glue around, twist it some, and then let it stop. And that gives really good adhesion for the stick. And also you can buy a reinforcement disc if you intend on using the plane a lot longer than these things normally last, because it'll keep you from machining the holes out. Alright, so now we're wrapping up the electronics installation. We're using the Graupner stuff. This stuff is set up like Spectrum, so you know it's throttle, aileron, elevator, and rudder. It's basically straightforward. Your radio will depend on what you get. But I have 2 wire harnesses here, one for the flap set and one for the ailerons. If you do flaperons, you know you plug them into your receiver, and if you use just ailerons, you use just a wire harness. So now that we hooked up the receiver and all the servo wires, we're gonna go and route our antenna for best placement. I like to put a vertical inside the fuselage since this is a single antenna receiver. This is the Graupner GR60 or GR12 Lite. I'm gonna tape the receiver down to stop it from rattling too, because I like to do 3D with this airplane. It's super fun. Before we put the rubber band on, I like to do this. Take your last paint stick that you get in the kit, put it on here, or not paint stick, this is a popsicle stick, and put it on the rear of the wing. That'll keep you from tearing the wing up when the rubber band goes in and out all the time. Now we can put the rubber bands on. Now the next step, if you guys are novice pilots or you're just getting to learn this plane, the recommended rates are 12 for low and probably 20 for high. I don't really have a throw gauge yet in the kit, but I just fly flat out amazing throws anyways. I just go all out with my throws. So I've got a lot right now. You guys will probably feel free to dial in some expo and some dual rates too. Now the last thing to do is the flaps. Now if you notice, sometimes you might run into binding issues. So on some radios they have a travel gauge, so the Graupner is here in the servo adjustment menu. So I have 65 and 135 on the low side. Right now I'm on 135, and I'll go 65, and there's still some binding, so I'm gonna take that out. So I'm gonna back off even more. So now I use about 36% on this side and 135 on the high to get all the way up. Your values may completely differentiate depending on what radio you have and how your servo geometry and linkage is set up though. So pretty much now we're done. Let's go out and fly. So now we're here, we're gonna go ahead and fly it. So this is gonna be the Maiden Flite. I'm gonna put it down. I'm actually just gonna taxi out there because the nice thing about this plane is the tires are so big they roll right through grass. Put the flaps down, and now we're gonna take off. It'll jump off effortlessly without any sort of real inputs. Now with flaps down, this plane does come really pitch sensitive. And it also becomes rudder not super sensitive too. So just be aware of that. So I'm gonna put the flaps back up, and now fly more like a normal 4-channel airplane. Now with this plane, you wanna fly coordinated. It does not like aileron, elevator, or just rudder and elevator turns. You need to do coordinated turns for this for best maneuverability. This version doesn't hover as well as the one with the ailerons and flaperons, because there's no ailerons in the prop wash, so you can't counter the torque. Do some inverted. Inverted is definitely more difficult than some airplanes. So basically, flying this plane it's very similar to the guinea pig, and sort of like a storch too. All right, so that's pretty much wraps that up. I'm gonna go and come in for landing. Let's go and dump the flaps. Now when you dump the flaps, the plane will pitch up, and just like a real airplane, you want to push the nose down some to keep the airspeed up and not let it slow down too much. Here it's floating in. It's so windy right now. Kind of hard to judge this. It'll slow down to almost a crawl. There we go. So that was fun. This thing flies great, and honestly, I hope you guys enjoy it. You guys are free to modify this any way you see fit. I'd say probably try slats too, because I want to give that a whirl next. Basically try things like that, have some fun with it, and go out and crash it and smash into a bunch of bushes and whatnot. So till later, see you guys next time.